Joining us now is Nick Thomas-Symonds, Shadow International Trade Secretary. But of course, you were previously Shadow Home Secretary, I think I'm right in saying. We heard there from the Business Secretary, who was also Home Secretary until a couple of weeks ago, that the government was in danger of breaking the law. Were you surprised by that?
I wasn't surprised to hear that, particularly given what's happened with Shapps and Braverman, who has also, of course, been using private email to send sensitive information, but was nonetheless appointed to Cabinet as a result of a grubby deal to get Rishi Sunak into the leadership of the Conservative Party, putting party before country. This issue at Manston is an extraordinarily serious one, and the government has completely failed to get a grip of the issue of tens of thousands of people risking their lives in small boats crossing the Channel.
Do you think there could have been a scenario where the previous Home Secretary was given legal advice one day and that advice had been different with Shapps and Braverman the day before?
It's difficult to believe that that is the case. Grant Shapps has been very clear in terms of what he was advised, and it's difficult to see how that would have changed very quickly. This yet again calls into question Rishi Sunak's judgment, both in reappointing Shapps and Braverman in the first place, given her previous conduct, but also now keeping her in position when you've got other members, another member of the Cabinet, out on the media this morning indicating problems with her judgment.
What would you expect your leader to do if one of his cabinet, shadow cabinet, had written the sort of messages that Gavin Williamson wrote to the former chief whip, a woman?
I would expect Keir Starmer to act as he always has done in matters of this kind, very decisively, and I wouldn't expect that person to be continuing in that position. Yes, and the issue here is that it is shocking, frankly, that when there was a complaint, that Rishi Sunak then goes ahead and makes the appointment of Gavin Williamson to his cabinet. It's another, we've had the Home Secretary that I've referred to, this is another of these grubby little deals to get Rishi Sunak the leadership of the Conservative Party, once again putting party interest before country. With Keir Starmer, you would get country first, party second.
But can we not acknowledge that it was a heat-of-the-moment message that he sent? He wanted to pay his respects to Her Majesty. He wanted to be at the funeral. I mean, in hindsight, we've all written stuff we shouldn't have.
But it was on two separate occasions, wasn't it? It wasn't just one occasion. There was the issue around the invitation to the funeral. There's a later exchange regarding, I understand it was a vote on a particular evening. So it isn't just a one-off occasion where there was this very unprofessional loss of temper. And we must go back to what Rishi Sunak promised on the steps of Downing Street. The high standard of ethics, the professionalism, yet he hasn't even appointed an independent advisor on ethics, despite promising to do so.
Give him a chance. He's trying to sort out the economy, and he's also had to go to Sharm el-Sheikh because Boris Johnson's there otherwise. Well,
Prime Ministers are capable of multitasking, and this is an extraordinarily important thing, particularly after the previous Prime Minister, but one in particular, Boris Johnson, who trashed standards in public life. It was Rishi Sunak himself who said that restoring trust was a priority, but he just isn't backing up those words with action, I'm afraid.
We also spoke to the Business Secretary about what was going to happen in the autumn statement. He didn't give too much away, although I sort of got the impression that there will be an extended windfall tax that could include fossil fuels. Labour would support that.
We've argued for an extension to the windfall tax. We've argued for the principle of a windfall tax since the very start of the year, because there are companies who are making these excess profits out there, tens of billions of pounds, that the government shouldn't be dragging its feet on and should, frankly, already have put in place measures. The problem that we have is we have a crisis now that was made in Downing Street, and working people are paying the price. The very reason we're having this debate about the extent of the economic pain people are going to face is because of the failure of this Conservative government.
Should we be paying reparation money to people like China?
Well, I'm not aware that China is asking for reparations, and the term is, of course, loss and damage. In terms of loss and damage, the government has been pushing for this to be on the agenda at COP27. We would also put it on the agenda at COP27. But it isn't just about the payment of loss and damage in terms of money going one way. There is a self-interest as well, a powerful self-interest in doing this.
But if China asks for money, should we give it to them?
China is not asking for money. I think the debate here is about countries like, for example, Pakistan, where there's been 30% of the country that's been underwater, or island nations like the Maldives that are particularly vulnerable to climate change. But it is also in our self-interest, because having countries around the world that are themselves energy secure means that the whole world energy market is not as vulnerable to shocks like Putin's legal invasion of Ukraine. It's important in terms of the refugee crisis, in terms of preventing people from becoming refugees. And it's also important from, if I could just say this, from a trade point of view, because we need to be leading on this agenda for our reputation around the world, and our reputation in international aid and the international aid budget, where the money would come from, is important in gaining trading opportunities as well.
How much of Matt Hancock's reported £400,000 fee for being on I'm a Celebrity should he donate, do you think, to the dyslexic children's charities that he says he's representing when he goes in there?
Well, if his purpose of going on there is to promote dyslexia, he has done campaigning on that in the past, then of course you would expect him to want to come out and indicate what that proportion was, and you'd expect it to be very significant. But the issue here is that Matt Hancock is a serving member of Parliament. Now, if people want to go on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here, that's absolutely fine, but trying to be a member of Parliament at the same time is the issue. How on earth can Matt Hancock say that he is serving his constituents when he's away for what could be a significant amount of time doing this?
Apparently he's got his phone and his laptop with him, which I'm surprised about, because, of course, none of the other contestants can do that. But, you know, he can work remotely, can't he?
Well, I can't say I'm a religious watcher of I'm a Celebrity,
you don't know what
but I've quite right, Kay, I've seen it, but I've seen it a number of times in the past. I've not come across contestants actually working remotely in the jungle before, and I think Matt Hancock's constituents would rightly question why it is that at any point, but particularly this point with the cost of living crisis that we have, that his priorities are elsewhere.
Come on, I know you're going to vote for him to eat something horrible, unmentionable, aren't you? You are, aren't you? Well, I may be tempted, Kay, but I have to say, having seen Matt Hancock across the dispatch box many times, the only thing I'd like to see him eat is his words, frankly. Ah, very good. I see where you're going with that. It's good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.